Pinedale Christian Church, welcome to the fourth podcast, this part of our U 2.0 series this year. I hope you've been doing your devotions every day, and I hope that they are speaking to you in a powerful way. As we've been going through this podcast, I've had a chance to sit down and talk to some really neat people and listen to some really cool stories. And today I am really, really honored, and good grief, since I grew up in the 80s and 90s, maybe a little starstruck, I don't know, but I've got a chance to talk to somebody that I used to like to watch play basketball and football back in the 90s. This is Rusty LaRue, who is with me. And Rusty, back in the day, man, he was the guy. He was a football star and a basketball star and a baseball star, and on the field, quarterback for Wake Forest University, record-setting quarterback for Wake Forest University. I know there were a lot of NCAA records that were part of that story, and once 55 completions in a game, which is crazy. On the basketball court, part of two ACC tournament champions, and that was a big team, man. That was Duncan and Childress, and you guys were loaded. And I was telling you a while ago, as an NC State fan, those really are not good memories for me. 95 and 96, and also the whole 90s were not a good memory. Not a good memory. But as an anti-UNC fan, every time I see the replay of you guys playing them in the ACC championship game, I smile. So I'm so split by that. Were you at the Joel this week to watch Wake play Duke?
I was not for the Duke game. I actually went back on Wednesday for the Georgia Tech game. They were honoring our 95 championship team, 25th anniversary. I think it's actually like either the 30th anniversary of the Joel or 25th anniversary of the Coliseum. And Coach Odom, my college coach, they were putting his name in the rafters, so I went back on Wednesday. So I watched the Duke game on TV the other night, so it was a heck of a win for the Dukes.
That was pretty awesome, wasn't it? It's kind of fun watching the fans stream the court. And by the way, I saw the pictures from the game where they honored you guys, had everybody together and saw Rodney Rogers and all. I mean, it was cool.
It was cool. We had a lot of guys. I think they said pretty much our whole 95 team came back, and then I think they had 85 alumni back, so it was really, really cool to see.
I certainly don't want to make you feel old, Rusty, because you and I are the same age, and so I don't want to make me feel old. But is it weird watching Brandon Childress right now after you played with his dad?
Yeah, it is. But Brandon actually played with Russ and Riley in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, so Riley went to East Forsyth, and Brandon was a freshman and maybe a sophomore, Riley's junior, senior year. So I got to see Brandon, kind of when I was at Wake on staff. Gotcha. They were both playing there, and so I've known him since he was, a high school kid. So it's great to see him. I was happy for him at the Duke game to have a end to end on that note. I know that's the first time
he's a heck of a player.
He is a really good player, and I know that's the first time he's had a chance to beat Duke. So I'm sure it would mean a lot to him.
That's the stuff that in 30 years he'll be sitting around talking
exactly,
about.
Exactly.
Rusty, I appreciate you being with me today.
Sure.
And each of these podcasts has been a conversation about transformation and what it means to be a new creation in Christ. And so what we've been saying is that when a person comes to Christ, that Christ makes people new. Everything is new. We get a brand new grace and brand new strength and a brand new urgency for the present and a brand new sense of hope for the future. I mean, everything changes when Jesus enters the picture. And so we've been calling this transformed self U 2.0. It's the new model of you. It's an upgrade, right? And so we've been for the last almost 40 days, we're moving down the home stretch right now. We've been talking about how to operate this new you. We've been reading this devotion book is kind of like an instruction manual for operating the U 2.0. And so along the way, I've had a chance to talk to people about different areas of transformation, the different things that God transforms. And of course, when God transforms a person's story, that's the good and the bad. I mean, everything now becomes, gets his fingerprints on it. And so I appreciate you talking to us this morning. You've got such a powerful story in a lot of ways. But what I'd like for you to do right out of the gate here is give a quick introduction of yourself. And we don't need you don't have to give like the autobiography here, but maybe three things that people should know to know you.
Obviously was born and raised right here, and spent the majority of my life in the Triad. I've been blessed. I've gotten a chance to play sports all over the world, basketball in particular. And so Currently, right now, I'm working with Dario Restaurants. I'm Chief Operations Officer, and so that's an exciting opportunity for me.
Favorite fries,
Yeah,
anywhere in the entire world. Hot dogs and fries, you cannot beat that.
Right up the road from you guys, and it's been great, and it's been a blessing. And I've got a father to 4 kids, and right now, I'm no longer coaching anymore. I would coach for a long time. I'm no longer coaching. I call myself a volleyball dad now. I've got a daughter who's volleyball, and so I'm doing that and working with Dario.
When Dario built up here, I immediately gained like 5 pounds. And so,
yeah, it's people. I've stayed in pretty good shape, and everybody's like, "You work at Dario? How do you not gain weight?" I was like, "Well, you know what? Well, hot dog a day keeps the doctor away."
I really believe if they would build a Chick-fil-A if they would build a Krispy Kreme across the road, and we would have Krispy Kreme, Chick-fil-A, and Dario. It's like the Holy Trinity. Just right here around us.
Definitely some good food and sweets for sure. So,
hey, you played for basketball for Wake Forest and the Bulls and the Jazz and the Warriors. If you had to put together an all-star team, Rusty, of 5 of the players that you played with, all right, so you're going to go to war now with 5 guys you played with. You could put together a pretty stout team, couldn't you? Who would you draft?
I'm not sure I would be in the starting lineup. I know I wouldn't be in the starting lineup. But so probably point guards, John Stockton. Of course, me at 2 guard.
Of course.
I made Randolph come off the bench with me starting at 2 guard. And
by the way, if Stockton's your point guard, he's going to get you some good looks.
He is. Played with him in Utah. And then probably at the 3, I would have to say it's a toss-up between Rodney Rogers and Scottie Pippen at the 3.
Yeah.
And then, let me back up. The 3 would be Michael Jordan. I'll say the 3 is be Michael Jordan. And then John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Tim Duncan. So you talk, I'd be gracious. Stockton, me, Jordan, Malone at the 4, and I'll play Tim at the 5.
I really love that you're playing the 2 guard in that. I love that. And I put you guys with anybody in the world with that
I would
team
say.
right there.
I would say. But when times got tough, I'd probably either sub in Pippen or Randolph for the end of the game. So
that is hilarious, man. That's big time players.
Yeah,
right
I've been blessed. I said I've been played with some great players and some great coaches. Jerry Sloan and Phil Jackson and Dave Odom, and so it's been awesome.
So I mentioned a second ago this study that we're doing called U 2.0 and exploring what it means to be made new. Listen, let's talk about something even bigger than sports for a second. And I'm a sports nut, so to be bigger than sports, well. But let's talk about something that's bigger in your own life. Can you just talk a little bit about how you have personally experienced rebirth and renewal from God? And I don't know where you might go on this, but how did you come to know Jesus as Savior and how He's impacted your real day-to-day walk in life?
Yeah, well, you mentioned grace. I grew up in a my mom, I knew who Christ was. I knew who Jesus was. We didn't really attend church regularly just because I think a lot of it had to do with we were active kids.
Right.
My brother was an athlete. My sister was an athlete. Right. We spent a lot of time in gyms. My grandfather was a Presbyterian who in Sanford, North Carolina, who got, perfect attendance and all that. So I knew who he was. I didn't really have a relationship, I would say, with him until I got to high school. My freshman year of high school, I was shopping for school supplies, and I saw a 6-foot-tall blonde shopping for school supplies. And come to find out, she went to my high school and went over and met her. And, of course, it was trying to ask her out on a date and found out once I started getting to know her, got her to go on a date with me somehow. And she was in church every Sunday, so you know where I was every Sunday.
Sure.
In church on Sunday. So at that time, just really kind of grew in my relationship my freshman and sophomore year. And I was always actually a pretty angry kid. I was very high strung, very competitive. And I think a lot of that had to do with as an athlete, I think, and as someone, and sometimes when you're an achiever, which is, I like to say, I'm a worker, I'm very results oriented. You can base your self-worth and your happiness on the last performance, which can be, I'm not perfect, so they can be bad sometimes.
Right.
And when I got into church more consistently in youth group, and I went to a youth retreat after my sophomore year of high school, I just kind of, the grace of the Lord, I felt, you know what? As a competitor, it's okay to want to achieve and to want to be good and to want to score points, but who I am and how I should feel about myself, I'm going to base that on how God looks at me and the grace I have through Christ, instead of whether I made the last jump shot or not. And by doing that, I tell people, it really freed me up to almost be more competitive, because I could lay it all out there on the line and give my best effort. And then if it didn't go like I wanted it to go, or I didn't make the shot to win the game, Rusty wasn't a failure. I was still loved by Christ.
Right.
I was still redeemed by Christ, no matter how many jump shots I made.
And I love that. That is so rich. And I think a lot of times, even in the church, it's like we talk about grace, but we have this idea, I've got to do it right so that God will bless me, or God will think more of me, or whatever. And God's trying to say that, right? You missed the shot. I got you, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I should tell my players a lot, the definition of courage is getting up every day and striving for perfection, knowing it's not attainable, right? I mean, there's been only one perfect person in the world, and he saved us. And so, I don't stop trying to be great because I might fail at it, because I know that, like you said, he's got my back. I mean, he wants us. I mean, God wants us to strive for being great. I mean, he's given us those gifts to try to be that.
He wired us. To try to run fast, right?
Absolutely. And he's given everybody gifts in different areas to try to use those gifts. And that's always been my goal, is say, he's blessed me with certain things. I'm gonna fight like crazy to be as good as I can with them. But knowing that, if I fall a little short, he's gonna say, that's all right, get back up, try it again.
Yeah, man, I love that. In fact, just right off the bat here, that is such a good word for people, because one of the things that we actually were able to talk about in the last podcast is, how do you respond to failure?
Right.
What do you do when you feel like you're running for the Lord? And I mean, if we were going to stay in a sports analogy, which I'm not going to keep doing, but if you lose the game, or if you just stink at it, you just don't show up, that somehow a lot of times people get this idea, I guess God's done with me now.
Sure.
But I love you saying courage is getting up and striving for greatness again. Right. Yeah.
It is. And it's just, there's never a player or a person who's again, not made a mistake. We talk about Dario, with customers. I mean, I say, hey, we're human beings. We make mistakes. We forget stuff in the bag. We make something wrong, We'll own it, but we'll fix it, and we'll keep trying to do it right.
So I want to press on this just for one more second, Rusty. So nobody gets a faith journey that's a straight line. I mean, we all have wanderings along the way. Was it hard for you? You're growing closer to the Lord through high school. But then, college and playing professional sports football, was it hard for you to stay connected to Christ during those years, or is there a good community of support?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. I think, especially when I traveled a lot, so we didn't really have a home church, and we didn't really attend church a lot. All the time when I was traveling, because I played in Russia and I played in Italy, and it's just different. But most of the teams, I've played on, there's always a core group of guys, whether it was a Bible study before, or chaplain before the game, or something that you could tap into. And really, for me, I tell people, grace. I kind of found grace in high school to help me handle the pressures of being an athlete. And then when I was a pro player, I was a journeyman NBA player. I played 8 years professionally, and a lot of times when people think of NBA players, I think of those guys who have long-term contracts. They sign that multi-million-dollar contract. Well, there's a lot of guys who are like me, who every year we were trying to fight to find a job. And so I had a wife and a child by the time I graduated from college, and every summer I'd have to say, okay, do I want to try to go overseas and make guaranteed money, or do I want to stay here, try to achieve my dream of making an NBA team, knowing that if I get cut from that team with no guarantee to go there, that I'm going to be playing in the minor leagues making, very, very little money. And so that's tough. You talk about pressure, and I've got a week to make shots to try to, if I make those shots and I play well, I might make the Chicago Bulls or the Utah Jazz and make unbelievable money. And if I don't, I've already kind of passed up on the good money overseas. And so just having the faith at that time, just to say, you know what, God's got a plan for me. don't let the stress, and the pressure bother me. Just believe that He's got a plan for where I'm supposed to be in my life. And if this isn't the opportunity, and it doesn't work out, then there'll be another one coming along. I mean, the year I made the Chicago Bulls, I decided I had actually my first year out of school. I went to camp with Chicago and left and went overseas and played for a month in Paris, and got back home and almost quit basketball professionally. I sat around for 2 months waiting on something. Nothing came. Finally, out of the blue, got a call from a minor league team in the CBA and played. And the next year, went to camp with Chicago. I made it to the last day of camp, 2 hours before the flight left for the first game. And they cut me.
No kidding.
Yeah. Cut me and just said, hey, if anything happens, we might call you up. But, we don't need you.
Yeah.
So I flew out to Idaho to a CBA team who had drafted me and started there. And 2 weeks in, the night of our first game out there, I got the call and got called back up 2 weeks later, and then had a chance to win a championship.
Yeah. So. It's just, I guess you're right. People don't think so much about the life of folks that they can't, that aren't signing the 10-year contracts or
right.
whatever. That's pretty crazy. And
yeah,
that is
it
high
is.
pressure.
It is. It's high. Well, and just, not knowing, every year, okay, imagine being someone who's got a job, and every year you got to go find another one and earn it again.
Right.
And the salary ranges of them are a lot different. And some of them and there's hard decisions. Do I take my family overseas? Do I stay here? You've got all those things to consider when you're trying to do it.
I hope I don't catch you off guard with this question. I don't think it will, but
sure.
We talk sometimes here about the rhythms or the disciplines that people do to stay connected to Christ. And when you were saying, you're on the road so much and
Mm-hmm.
and not able maybe to be in church as much as you'd like, so you're here and there. What are some of the disciplines or some of the rhythms of life, or some of the ways that you found to stay connected with Christ?
Yeah. I'm a terrible reader, so I typically have my Bible app. I try to get on there when I can and get the daily, scripture. I attend a men's group. I attend one. We have one at Dario that I go to, and then I have another men's group through my church that I go to. When I was playing, a lot of times it was just trying to stay connected through, watching something online or reading some scripture. But for me now, I'll be honest, I love listening to Christian radio. I listen to the K-Love and a lot, just because I'm traveling a lot to the stores, and I just find it's a way to keep me, encouraged. And so that's a big one for me, but just, trying to make it a priority to try to spend some time in the Word and spend some quiet time. I got a nice fire pit out by the house. I like to get out there every now and then, just for some quiet time on my own.
I like that. I mean, we have to be intentional about what we do with Christ, and those I like, especially like you talking about those men's groups, because it's also this that keeps you connected with folks around you. Look, I want to shift gears here, Rusty, and this week's devotions have all focused on the testimony of people who walk with God, and they walk with God in good times, and they walk with God in dark times. And I know that you have some perspective on both of those. I mean, you've lived both of those, but specifically, you've lately experienced a darker time. Do you mind talking about what happened with your family?
5 years ago, it was actually back in September. I lost my son, 19-year-old son, in a car wreck. He was up in Virginia, taking his girlfriend to the airport, and foggy morning, and didn't see a curve, and God took him. So, that's tough. That's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And apologize, I'm sure I'll get a little choked up, but it's you find out when you go through things like this that you got a great God and a lot of wonderful followers who support you. Yeah. I can remember the first week it happened. How many people came over to the house, prayed for us, and took care of us and loved us. And I think anytime you go through something like that, it's easy to ask questions, and want to know why. And I think one of the gifts that I really feel like God has given me is, you fight for that peace.
Sure.
To try to come to you to say, how do I handle all this? And for me, just having the comfort to know, hey, it's okay not to know all the answers. I can't know them all now. I'll know them all one day, but right now I can't know them all. So just trying to on a daily basis for my family and myself, and just say, hey, there's a scripture, and I'm terrible with knowing the name of the scripture. There's one where it talks about right now we're peering through a fog right now,
Right.
and that one day it'll all be clear.
Yeah, it's in 1 Corinthians 13, and exactly that we can only see what we can see, and so we're at this tension. I mean, it really is this tension, and I see the tears in your eyes, and that is the tension, because we're right here between one day and right now, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so you came to Christ here, and one day is with the Lord in heaven, and so here we are in this tension. One of the things that really strikes me is that in the Bible, Jesus, I mean, he has been here. I mean, he knows what this is, and the Bible never really tells us what it is, except that, Paul says, no eye has seen and no ear has heard. You can't even imagine what this is. So you've got a loved one who's experiencing that, and yet Jesus, who was here, stood at Lazarus' tomb and wept.
Yeah,
I mean, just openly wept, because the separation it stings. So
it does, and it's it's. For me here, it hurts. For my family, it hurts. And I think, but if anybody knows the pain of losing a son, it's my Savior. So,
man, what a profound thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
I just know this. I know for people who are in heaven right now, there is no separation. Because if a day in heaven is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day, then good grief, an entire lifetime down here is couple hours in heaven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, and that's I'm trying to live it right, but right. Even though it's a short amount of time, but I think for me, we've been blessed. I mean, there's highs and lows, there's good days, there's bad days, there's but we really have, I think, anytime you go through something from whether it's losing a job or losing a parent or losing a child, you try to get a support network, and the church for us has been that. We've had a lot of friends and family who've prayed for us, and our kids have, thank the Lord, have handled it about as well as can be expected.
Sure.
So it's been good, but I also think it's okay to allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to doubt. I mean, there's I don't think in the Bible, I could be wrong, but the God understands you're going to have doubts, but He's going to stand by your side and wait there for you and to help you when they come when you see it and you come back and you say okay, and He's going to slowly keep bringing you to Him.
I really love you saying that, and actually one of the things I wanted to get into with you is to maybe offer some advice or some encouragement to somebody right now who is in the throes of loss or feels grief. But one of the most honest prayers in the Bible is when Peter said, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief."
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Right. I mean, there's something in me that wants to believe more. But let me back up on this. So what the Bible teaches us is it says mourn, but don't mourn as if you have no hope. And I think this is this transforming. How does God transform even this moment that Jesus stepped out of the grave to say, I've transformed the grave too. There is life after death now. That we have the hope that the grave is not the end. If you were talking to somebody right now about the hope that we have even in the middle of grief, what would you say to them?
I would say that you may not always feel it, but it's there. That hope is, that's been my walk, grace and then faith when I was a player, and then now hope. That's what gets me up every day, knowing that I've got the hope that I'll see my son again one day, that hope that, God's walking right alongside me. The Holy Spirit's with me through this journey here, as brief as it may be in the grand scheme of things. And just to don't isolate yourself, find, if you're struggling, talk to people about it, find a support group, because everybody's going through stuff. And it's there's no promises that this was going to be easy here. Because we live in a fallen world and the devil prowls around like a lion, looking for people that he can devour, So just that for me, being able to cling to that hope of knowing that just like I did back when I was a player, it didn't matter how I, played, how much Christ, loved me. The fact that I'm going through a difficult time now doesn't mean he loves me any less, or
Right.
that he's not there for me. It's just a season of where I'm at right now. And, you know, I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the things, but I do know that God loves me and he's there for me. And one day I'm going to see that clearly, of why everything unfolded like it did.
The Bible says God is not the author of evil, but on the other hand, God can redeem even our worst moments and somehow bring good out of bad. I mean, some of the greatest moments in history are things that are painted against the backdrop of something that's terrible in history, right? When you think about where you are right now, Rusty, and the journey that you're on and your family is on, I mean, is there a place in you that you would say God is doing something new and good in me because of where I am right now? I mean, something that makes me even stronger for Him, or
yeah. I mean, I think anytime you go through things, it makes you stronger. It makes you. It doesn't necessarily feel it at the time. I think about it as an athlete. I used to get in the weight room and I was like, you know what, if it doesn't hurt a little bit, if it doesn't hurt a little bit, I'm not going hard enough,
Right.
And I think sometimes in other parts of our lives, especially maybe, we look at those setbacks and those hurts as sometimes those bring progress, as difficult as they are. I think about my wife actually prayed that my son would preach the gospel one day. Well, he might in his death more than he ever did in his life.
Man.
And so I get up every day thinking, I'm gonna make sure that I'm showing that this is what God's people do.
And that is so powerful. I mean, really, it's so powerful. And I tell you what, man, I am increasingly convinced of what I'm about to say. I had a family member who, near the end of her life, was saying, "Look, I've got more people I know in heaven than I do than I do on earth right now," and she just longed for heaven. And I really do think there's something in all of us as we go through life. It's like the older you get and the closer you get to Christ, the more your heart longs to be there, because that is not just home with the Lord, but it's also home with those that we are separated from. And there's just something in us that yearns for that. Of course, we're still here for a reason, right? And so God's saying, use the time now, but one day. I really believe when we think about that transformation, the hope of that is really what drives us forward.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
This is it's kind of a more of a bird's eye philosophical view, okay? And we're coming down the home stretch right now. But when you look back over your whole journey right now, the highs and the lows and the in-betweens like everybody's got, what's one thing that you would say that you've learned about God through your journey right now?
I think probably, I'm trying to think of a way to, how the right way to say it. Steadfast, maybe, I mean, as I've gone through my life and I've kind of come and gone, with my walk, and when I'm close and when I'm away and when I come back, he's still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he's
right.
just steadfast. And I think just, I look at it as something that's, that foundation of, and again, because as humans, we have daily lives and you leave more at good times probably than you do in the bad times. But just being steadfast and being there for me when I came to him.
I love that. I tell you what, Rusty. Yeah, one thing that I appreciate you is how open and vulnerable you are. I mean, you just and to me, this is where the gospel shines. It's at the place where we can just stand in front of people and say, here's who I am, and here's what God is doing in my life. And it is obvious to me that God's doing something big in your life. And if I can say this from the outside, that to me, the way that the Lord is working through you is more impressive than anything that ever happened on the football field or the basketball
Sure,
court.
absolutely.
This is the real stuff, man. And
Yeah.
I admire you so much. And I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah. Awesome.
Listen, if you're for somebody who's listening to us right now, if you are dealing with right now with with grief or a sense of loss, or you're struggling right now because of something that's going on in your life, I do want you to know we care about you. And when I say we, I don't just mean Pinedale Christian Church. I just mean the Lord cares about you, and his people do too. And if there's a way that we can point you to help right now, to some support, we want to do that, because we care about you very much. The ministers here, we're not professional counselors, but we can probably help you find somebody. And the truth of the matter is that we care about you. So call us or contact us if we can be a blessing to you. In the meantime, to my brother right here, I just want to say, keep fighting the good fight.
Yep.
And let's see 20 years from now what things look like. We're going to keep working for the Lord until he comes back. And if you don't mind, could I pray with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we stop here? All right,
Yeah.
let me do that. Lord, I just want to thank you for my brother here. And Lord, I'm thankful for the journey that he's taken in life, but Lord, especially for where he's headed right now. Lord, I know that his heart is full. And so, Lord, I pray for Rusty and his entire family. And Lord, that more than ever, Lord, that they would feel your presence right now, and that you would strengthen them, Lord, with a sense of resolve to make every moment count as long as we're here, Lord. But that always, every moment of every day, that the hope of what's to come would stay on the surface, Lord, so that by the time we're with you, Lord, that we're running into into your presence. Lord, I'm thankful for your hope that transforms and redeems. I'm thankful for the ministry of my friend Rusty. Lord, continue to work through him in a powerful way. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Folks, thank you for tuning in. We've got one more of these coming up next week, and it's a story that's really very unique. You're going to hear the story next week of a local preacher here who's going to tell you about how when he realized God was calling him into ministry, he knew he had one big problem, and that is that he is dyslexic and can't read. And he said to the Lord, I'll go wherever you want, but how am I going to preach if I can't read the Bible? It is a fantastic story. I think you'll be blessed by that. You'll hear that story next week. Until then, I hope to see you Sunday, and God bless you.